Hey everybody, welcome to Enliven Wellness. My name is Tessa and I'm really happy to be here to share with you what it's like to move out of mold. So I'm going to share with you my experience of what it was like to move out of mold, and I'm going to be sharing with you throughout the video some tips and tricks on how to stay sane through this whole process, and just things that I did to stay sane, little tips and tricks about how to move out of mold. I'm going to make other videos about how to move out of mold, or at least how I moved out of mold, but I'll just give you some little tips and tricks throughout the video, so make sure you watch the whole video to get these tips and tricks. Now, back in March 2017 is when I decided to move out of the moldy apartment, and well, it was actually in February 2017, and what had happened was I was again suffering from all these chronic health conditions, and I didn't know what was going on, and so then I found out about mold, and then I got my apartment tested and I got my apartment tested, and what they found was Stachybotrys at really high levels in my garage, and in my kitchen milder levels. So I was pretty seeped in toxic black mold, and again, I didn't really know mold was a thing, and I didn't really know anything about chronic inflammatory response syndrome, but I was enrolled in school at the time, and then I found out about CIRS, and I was like, this explains, this explains everything that's been going on with me. Wow, okay, it's time for me to leave. And I remember when I realized I needed to move, there were a couple reasons why I needed to move. I mean, one was my landlords were a little bit cray-cray at this other place that I lived at, and it was not safe, and it was really not a good location. I was also being carbon monoxide poisoned while I was there. Yeah. And so it was a situation where I needed to get out, and I started looking at every for rent sign around. I downloaded the Zillow app and a couple of other apps, and then finally this place showed up, and I basically stalked the property managers, and I was like, listen, I have to have this place, because I knew that there were certain things that I had to have in my new location, like wood floors. That was an absolute must. Having cross currents of air, again, another absolute must. So I knew that I needed to be able to air this place out as much as I could. I knew that I needed a place that had relatively new construction, but I knew that it wasn't going to be super new, but relatively new. Now, I mean, if you're multiple chemical sensitive, that can be a problem, but for me personally, I'm not MCS. Many blessings to those of you who are. I know that it's a horrible condition, but I knew that I needed a relatively clean space. And then though, I remember sitting there realizing that I was going to be moving and what that entailed. And I remember looking around my apartment and being oh my God, I'm going to have to get rid of all my books, my teddy bear, paintings, files, what? Clothes, what about my clothes? What about my, what about my supplements? What about my herbs? What about my spices? All of this stuff just started to fly through my head, and I started to freak the out, right? I was what the is going to happen? I was just okay, I was what about my bed? What about my couches? What about my carpets? What about oh my God, paintings, dish liquid. I mean, I was just going everything, and I'm sure you've been, if you're going through this process, or you have the prospect of going through this process, it's you're going through the same thing. And I was overwhelmed. My hair started to fall out. I mean, I was feeling like shit. I was in a master's program. I'm still in a master's program, but I had just started it, and then I was now needing to move. Talk about an explosion. And I was I don't even know how I'm gonna make it through this. I really don't. But thankfully, and this is one of my first tips to you all out there, and this is if I had somebody telling me something back then, it would be these two things. And I already knew about one of them, but one of them, I wish I had somebody tell me this right away, so I'm going to tell you this. Your move is not going to be perfect. Okay, no matter what. It's not going to be perfect, and you can't expect it to be perfect. And, don't let yourself get mired and wired down with the thoughts of it being perfect. Seriously. Because that's going to drive you even more bananas. Okay? So let go of the idea of perfection, really. And I know that there are certain camps out there that say you have to ditch everything and just move out. But like, I have a lot of thoughts on that. The number one is that we are never going to be mold free. And who's to say, seriously, that like if you move to the new place and then you buy a couch, what if the factory that like made the couch, or what if the warehouse that the couch was in had mold? Like mold is everywhere. Okay? And I'm not saying like what I'm trying to get at with this is that you cannot necessarily expect to completely live mold free. It's not going to happen. In my opinion, that's completely not going to happen because of things like that. There are higher levels of toxic mold outside my front door than there are inside my house. So when I open my front door, just because of the mold that grows outside my front door, it comes into my house. I mean, so like mold will be everywhere. Like you're gonna have mold spores are going to be on other people's clothes. It's going to be on, like items that you buy, and I'm not saying like be haphazard or that it's not like that you need to just like live in this moldy environment. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you can't expect to live 100% mold free. It's not going to happen. Like we can't test every item, and like getting rid of all of your things. Like to me personally, I didn't choose to go that route because I was like, I'm like, it's not going to be perfect. Like this move is not going to be perfect. So I'm going to start making my body more resilient so that I can handle these things. That's just how I approached it, right? So that's just how I approached it. And, some people may critique me on that, but to me, it was worth the sanity because I literally was like, I can't get rid of my teddy bear, And of course there's been like, there were many precautions that I took when I moved, and I'll share those in another video. Things like fogging, things like putting things in bins and putting them in storage. I took a lot of precautions. That's not like I totally did, but I didn't get rid of everything, and that's just the truth. And I think that it is a little bit unrealistic to think that you have to. Again, you could buy new clothes, and those could be moldy, right? Like that's just the reality of the world that we live in, and the world of like mycotoxins and mold. Like it's everywhere. And anyway, so like number one piece of advice, and this is the thing that like I found the most soothing space in, was I was like, this isn't going to be perfect. I have to let that idea of perfection go. I just do. And plus a lot of us out there can't afford to get rid of everything, right? And again, there are precautions that you can take, and if you're interested, please email me at tgirly7@gmail.com, and I can help you like through this process. Really, I can teach you how I moved out. And again, it wasn't perfect, I'm just going to admit it. But if you're going through this process and you need some guidance, please reach out. I would be honored to help you. So moving on, I started to like, okay, now I have to like get this new place tested for mold. So how am I going to, oh God, like, are they going to think I'm crazy? And then I'm like, okay, but at the same time, I need a safe place. So basically what I did is I approached the property managers and I said, listen, I'm going to test this place for mold, and I will take care of the remediation if necessary. Okay. And, blessings, I had help financially to get this place remediated. And so, I mean, seriously, like I was very blessed with that, but I was willing to take on that cost out of my savings had I not had that help as well. So I was prepared to take that on personally because I knew that it was going to be worth it in order to move into my new location. So regardless of if I had that help or not, then I was still going to do it, right? Like it would have come out of my pocketbook anyway, had I not had that beautiful help. So that was the decision, was like, I'm going to get this place tested and I'll take on the remediation. And the property managers were cool with that. Thank goodness. So I then, got this place, and then I was like, I'm going to keep it after we got it remediated, because it wasn't like it wasn't a very high ERMI score, but there was still some cladosporum. And so I decided like, I'm going to get it remediated. And it wasn't that expensive, thank goodness. The company that I use here in Colorado is just great, and so many blessings to them as well. And we basically like kept this place as like a clean space until I decided to move in. And then, like, what was going through my head is like, now, holy crap, how am I gonna move? Like, what does a move out of mold entail, right? Like, again, what do I keep? What do I get rid of? How do I keep it? Like, how do I clean the things that I want to keep? You know, like, all of these things were going through my head, and again, it was like really, really stressful. But then, piece of advice number 2, again, another thing that just came in, like, that was so refreshing to me was, oh my gosh, this is a chance to get rid of all the that I don't need and to purge my life. So I saw it as an opportunity to get rid of things, to like clear out the old, in with the new, you know, get rid of the random crap that I had built up over the years that like I really didn't need. And it really allowed me to like really practice non-attachment to things. To be like, it's just a thing. It's just a thing. Like, I don't need it, right? And to like legitimately look at the things that I had accumulated and become a really hardcore minimalist. I'll never forget the morning when I woke up, the first morning I woke up after like me and my ex-boyfriend, blessings on him, he was so great through the process. We're broken up now, but anyway, he was so great through the whole process. And I woke up in the morning and I looked in my kitchen cabinet and I only had 5 cups. And I was like, this is beautiful. Like, because before I had like 20. And I was like, well, I don't need 20 cups. I need a couple, right? And it was just like this beautiful, refreshing feeling of like, I just got rid of so much and like, I feel refreshed. You know, so that's piece of advice number 2 is like, when you're looking at all the things that you may or may not need to get rid of, see it as an opportunity to cleanse, right? Like, that was a piece for me where I was like, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to cleanse out my life. Cool. It's about the perspective shift. And I know like it can be really hard to get rid of some of those really, really like intimate things. And again, I personally think that there are strategies around this, which I did take. Some people may critique me pretty harshly for this, but I'm still doing great despite that. So anyway, that was the moving process. But then like when it came down to the moving process, stress levels are high, right? Like, and again, there were certain protocols and certain precautions that I took. I will share those in another video. And I'll also, I'm writing a book on this. So I'm writing a book on how I moved out of mold. Again, it wasn't perfect and I may get critiqued for it, but that's okay with me. This is just how I moved out of it. And it's going to be available in book form here very soon. Now again, moving day came and it was like chaos. I mean, it was absolute chaos. Like, you know, the junk trucks were there and, they're like, you know, throwing a bunch of stuff out and I'm like trying to like coordinate with the movers and then the mold cleaners and like, okay, now we need to do this and now this needs to go here. And then I'm, you know, in between 2 locations. So it was an absolute insane weekend, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, it was an insane process. Insane. But, and that was actually the first time that I really like, I guess got really emotional and cried, was when I saw the junk trucks go away and then Meta's, my baby boy's little play castle, his play castle, like I saw it going away and I just like started to weep. Like, I was just weeping and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is really happening. I got rid of like 80% of the things that I owned. And then, you know, I'm getting into this new location and like all of these thoughts are flying through my head about like what ifs, like what if in the future, blah, 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 blah. So this is where piece of advice number 3 comes in, and it is like the golden piece of advice for all of you out there moving through mold and moving out of mold and potentially moving out of mold is to stay present. Stay present. Stay in the present moment. You know, don't let your mind go off into like storyland, as I like to call it, like what if this and what if that and oh my god, and right? Like that's, I mean, you can go off on this huge roller coaster of stress and freaking awful stories that you tell yourself, and they're just stories. You got to stay present in what's happening. Okay, Now I'm moving this piece of furniture. Now we have to do this. Now we just take the next right step. That is all. Just take the next right step. That is all. You know, so that's what again saved me so much, was like, it's not going to be perfect. You know, I need to stay present, and it's going to be okay. Like, it's going to be okay. Really. That, speaking to myself and changing my perception, seeing it as an opportunity to really like cleanse out my life, to start fresh, to again, like, to really practice non-attachment to things. That's what saved me, like literally saved my sanity through the whole process. Letting go of perfection, seeing it as changing my perception of the whole process, and then staying really present. That's what saved my little booty when I was moving out of mold. And, you know, then again, like, my ex-boyfriend and I, like, the night after I moved, like, we got into this place and I like unpacked everything, and then like we were up until like 3 a.m. and then I woke up the next morning and it was like my cat was freaking out because we were in a new place and like everything was in, you know, disarray pretty much. And then it was just like, I just woke up and I went, like, it's over. I'm here. You know, and it was just this like quiet moment of like, whoa, okay, now I get to move on. And again, staying in the present, you know, because then I was like, oh, well, have I cross-contaminated, and like all these, you know, like, did I cross-contaminate? Did I do it right? You know, did I get rid of too many things? Did I not get rid of enough? All stories. And again, I go back to, we cannot expect to live in a mold-free world, y'all. It's not going to happen. So let go of that idea of perfection, and like that you're going to be, like that this moving process is going to be absolutely perfect, you know, and it is, you know, grieve the losses, but at the same time, change your perspective and see it for the, like, the opportunity that it is to get rid of things, to start fresh. And as much as you can, you got to stay in the present, because it's, again, it is a chaotic, very emotional process. There's no joke. And especially if you're feeling like crap anyway, it's like all these things are being thrown at you. It's like, what? And a lot of you have families and you feel like you're uprooting them, and then you feel like you're the reason for this. You know, like you feel like you're the problem and that you're the reason for the move. Stop beating yourself up. Okay? This is just part of what is going on in your life. You know, have family discussions about this. Share your feelings openly with one another, of course. But know that you're all on the same team and that you're all just trying to do the best for your, like, just know that you're, you know, like, if you're the one who is having the effect of the mold and you're feeling like you're blaming yourself, like, let that go. You know, I was lucky I had a cat. Like, I didn't have a family. I mean, I don't have a family. I'm not a mom. I'm a mom to a cat. But I understand that a lot of you are feeling that way. Stop blaming yourself. Stop blaming yourself. Really, be more gentle on yourself. Like, your family's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Let go of the perfection, change your perception, and stay present. This process is hard for sure, but if you can do those 3 things, it's going to save you so much pain and suffering that's really unneeded. Okay, like, you need to make your body more resilient, period. That's like thing number 1 in order to stay like resilient against mold and biotoxins. And again, I'm not saying mold's not a problem, but we cannot expect to live in a mold-free world. It's not going to happen. So let go of that idea and like just know that you can become more resilient against these biotoxins and that you don't have to live in fear. So I hope that this video was helpful. I was really inspired to make it, to share with you what it was like for me to go through the moving experience, you know, and just in hopes of maybe helping somebody out there who might be going through it themselves, or like may be thinking about going through it. It's scary, but it's worth it. And you can totally do it if you do those 3 things that I just said. So if you're looking for more guidance, like more of the ways that I moved out of mold, the precautions that I took, ways to make your body more resilient against these toxins. Because nowadays, like I work out in a moldy, like, you know, the gym that I work out of is moldy at times, and my yoga studio that I have here in town, like that I rent out of, is moldy. I mean, I'm around mold all the time, and you all are too. And I do not get my ass kicked by it anymore because I'm more resilient. And that's where you can be too. So reach out at tgirly7@gmail.com if you're interested in working with me one-on-one. I'm not an expert. I'm a girl that's been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, don't want to wear it anymore. And I am, you know, I'm getting my master's, and so I'm not just like some girl in a YouTube basement. But anyway, I'd love to help you, guide you on your journey. So just reach out and say, I'm ready. You can also email me, and you can also check out my website, Enliven-Wellness.com, and check out my website, check out my Facebook page. Make sure you've subscribed to this channel if you haven't. Share these videos, comment, like, you know, all that goodness. Welcome to the Enliven family. This place is a place of hope, and like a message of hope and resiliency, and that you can get better, and it's all about love, really. It's all about love. We're all on the same team, and I hope you're having a good evening or day or whenever you're watching this. So thank you for being here, and I hope this video was helpful. Okay, bye.